Hey, Sammy, welcome back to Call to Be Different, Reflecting Christ. Today we are going to be talking about a couple of things. One, am I uncharitable? Two, the problem with people interpreting scriptures. And three, the problem with you reading comments and trying to determine which is the right church. Okay, so I want to go to a video. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I did an interview with Eddie Trask, who has a wonderful channel called Catholic Recon, where he has converts to the Catholic Church and also reverts, Catholics who have left the church and then come back. He'll bring them on and he allows us to share our testimonies, which is amazing. It's like so beautiful because there's so many stories where people talk about the Eucharist and why they saw the truth and how long it took them and the history and the church fathers and stuff like that. And so it's a really great way to say, hey, guess what? We've all looked into what the very earliest church was doing and what they were practicing and all this stuff. And we started realizing, oh, wow, the church I'm in doesn't really do all that. But the church that is around and has been around this entire time is the Catholic Church. And they are doing all that. And so therefore, I think we can all conclude we're in the wrong church. Okay, so it's a great channel. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Now, I shared during my interview that I was ashamed, I think is how I put it. I don't know exactly how I put it, but I basically said I was ashamed at talking about my Christian faith. And even Eddie was like, ooh, you admitted that. That's terrible. You don't ever want to deny Christ. But I didn't expound upon what I was talking about because we were kind of in mid-conversation and I just said it. And then he asked me a question and I went to answer the next question. And I wish I would have expounded upon it a little bit farther. So was I ashamed of Jesus Christ? No. I was never and have never been ashamed of Jesus Christ. Was I ashamed of the Bible? No. What was I ashamed of? I was ashamed that here's something that I hold as truth, quote unquote, but I didn't even know what I believed because I had not read the scriptures for myself. I always just took everyone else's interpretation. I would go to churches, things that I liked hearing, I would listen to. And honestly, I was terrified of the Bible. The Bible is huge. And when I first started reading it, I really quickly realized, wow, I really have no idea what's going on here. And I needed help interpreting it. And that was something that I was ashamed of, that I had not tackled the scriptures. And so I really didn't know exactly what I believed. I believed Jesus was real, but I didn't really understand why I believed it. And so I needed to figure that out. And that took me down a very long road of reading the scriptures and learning the scriptures. And by God's grace, he kept pushing me to seek the scriptures and seek because he's in here. When I am not in the scriptures, I feel further and further and further away from God. But when I rest in the scriptures, I feel him all the time. I see him. I hear him. I know he's with me. He's guiding me. He's helping me. And he's doing it through his living word. And I love having that relationship with him. And so the scriptures are something we need. And by his grace, he kept pushing me to read the scriptures, read the scriptures, read the scriptures. He kept laying this on my heart. And it was because I would talk to people who would have different views on scriptures, or maybe I would come across sermons where they would say something different than what another pastor would say. And so I just got to this point where I was like, I have to figure this out for myself because I don't know who's right. And I don't know who's right because I don't know the scriptures. And so I started reading the scriptures, and that really led me into the truth of the Catholic Church, because once the teachings of the Catholic Church started coming into my life and I started investigating them, I was like, whoa, kind of like a Scott Hahn moment. This is gold. It's pure gold. And if you don't know the scriptures, you might miss it. You might miss it. I'm not going to say you will miss it, but you might miss it. Because in order to truly understand the magisterium, to truly understand the tradition, to truly understand the scriptures, they have to work together. They can't be separated. They need to be together. And so you have to know your scriptures to understand why the magisterium teaches what they teach, and to know your tradition to understand why they saw certain things in the Bible the way that they saw it. And so it all works together cohesively. Now, I had shared a short yesterday where a gentleman had said in the comments that the Bible is the ultimate arbiter of the truth. And then I just commented back and said, well, St. Paul says that the church is the pillar and bulwark of the truth. What's a pillar? It's like a foundation, something that holds something up, right? And what's a bulwark? It's the protection, the thing that protects the truth. So he never says scriptures, although he tells Timothy, know your scriptures, like speak the scriptures, talk about the scriptures. But he doesn't say that scriptures are the bulwark of the truth. He says the church is. Okay? So another gentleman commented on that one, and this is what he said. I'm not even going to share his name. You can go find the comment if you want to. He said, Timothy 3 looks like it is an instruction from Peter of how the deacons and overseers of the church are to conduct themselves, which I think is safe to interpret that if the overseers and deacons do not follow these rules laid down by Peter, they are in fact not a church of the living God and not the foundation and pillar of the truth. Okay, I'm not going to lie. When I read this, I got super stressed. Like, I get stressed when people do stuff like this, and I absolutely just, I don't want to say the word hate because I hate that word. I hate the word hate. I despise when people do stuff like this. Okay, so first off, let's go over it a little bit slower. All right, Timothy 3 looks like it is an instruction from Peter on how the deacons and overseers of the church are to conduct themselves. Okay, so he's right on a couple things. First off, it's not Peter talking to Timothy, it's Paul talking to Timothy, because Timothy was Paul's little protege. And Timothy was young, and we know this. He talks about, don't let your age discourage you. Like, you know the truth, you hold the truth, and so stand on the truth. Who cares about your age, Timothy? And so this is Paul talking. And yeah, he is talking about, he's telling Timothy, this is how you pick a deacon, this is how you pick a bishop, and this is kind of the qualifications you should be looking for. And, but this gentleman goes on to say, I think it's safe to interpret it. So this is where I talked about in one of my recent videos, where this should be a red flag for Protestants, because now I'm taking your personal interpretation of what you think that this means. And if I don't know the scriptures, if you're like me and you're ashamed because, well, I don't know the scriptures, so I'm just going to take your word for it, that's a problem. So if you see something like this, when somebody starts putting in I, this is how I see it, this is what I think, this is how I interpret it, go look it up yourself. That's the first thing, and that will help you a lot. Just get out a Bible, turn to 1 Timothy chapter 3 and read it, okay? But some really great advice that I actually got from our Methodist pastor was, do not just read whatever that little chunk is. Read the chapters before and the chapters behind. And considering that 1 Timothy is a letter to Timothy, if Timothy got this letter, he would have sat down and read the whole thing. Surely you can sit down and read the whole thing. It's 6 chapters long, and honestly, it's super short. So you can read this in 20 minutes. Easy. So I would rather you sit down and read all of Timothy and see, okay, what is he talking about? 1 Timothy. You don't have to read 2 Timothy. That's another letter. All right, so let's open our Bibles together. A little quick Bible study. So I have the Great Adventure Bible. It's the RSV edition, Catholic edition, I should say. I'm not sure if there's a Protestant RSV, but I'm sure there is. Okay, so here's some of the headings on 1 Timothy. This is chapter 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll stop there because the rest, really, it works fine for us to just work here. All right, but again, go read it all yourself. So this is Paul talking to Timothy, and the first chapter says it's a warning against false teachers. So Paul's telling him about false teachers. Then the next little paragraph section is gratitude for mercy. So he's talking about that. Then he talks about instructions concerning prayers. So he's talking about that. Then he talks about the qualifications for the bishops, and then he talks about the qualifications for the deacons. And then he goes to say this. I hope to come to you soon, but I am writing these instructions. So not just about the bishops, not just about the deacons, but about prayer, about false teachers, about gratitude for mercy. I'm writing about all of this because remember, it's a letter and not broken down by chapter or verses. That came way, 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 way later. But let's continue. Okay, verse 15. If I am delayed, you may know how one ought to behave in the household of God, comma. Okay, commas weren't back then, but we do know how, commas work today, so we put them in there. Which is the church of the living God, the pillar and bulwark of the truth. Okay, so does that sound to you like Paul is telling Timothy, if you don't pick the right people and you screw this up, the church no longer exists? Is that what that sounds like? Not to me. Not to me. But this gentleman says that, which I think is safe to interpret, that if the overseers and deacons do not follow these rules laid down by Peter, then they are in fact not a church of the living God and not the foundation of the truth. It doesn't say that though. It never says that. It never, not one time does Paul say, if the deacons and elders do not act this way, which, by the way, I also told you, Timothy, to pick them. So if they didn't act this way, it's because you didn't do a good job picking. Just saying, side note. But I didn't want to rub it in your face, so never mind. But he talks about, like, I want to come to you. I gave you all these instructions to help you. And then he goes on to encourage him that you may know how one ought to behave in the household of God. He doesn't say the household of God disappears if one doesn't behave correctly. He says that this is how someone should behave. And because you are the pastor, you are priest who is ministering to these people, you should know how one is to behave. And if they're not behaving like this, you need to correct it. Period, the end, or you need to get them out. He doesn't say that the church stops being the church because these people are screwing it up. He never says that. He says, here's the instructions, and I'm giving them to you so that you know how one should behave in the church. Again, comma, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and bulwark of the truth. Those things are two different, like almost two different sentences, okay, in a way. This is how people and the bulwark of the truth. Okay, so this is what frustrates me, and this is why I think people say that I'm uncharitable. I'm not gonna say people because I've only heard it twice since I've started this channel back in last year. I don't know, April last year, June, I don't know. It was summer. Anyways, so I just want you to read the Bible yourself and stop listening to people like this who are online telling you their own personal interpretations, because what I feel like is it's just a vortex. Anybody can throw their own interpretations in and they all spin around, and wherever it lands, whoever gets in and like pulls something out, oh, well, that's what I'll believe today until I learn something new tomorrow, and then that's what I'll believe. And I'm not, like, people can say I'm uncharitable, but let's just be honest. Like, am I being uncharitable for telling you the truth? Am I being uncharitable for saying, I was one of those people that would listen to the vortex of lies, and I would just go, well, that makes sense because, yeah, he is talking about the deacons and the bishops right before that. And so I could see that. But if I would have opened my Bible and I would have sat down and I would have read it, I would have said, okay, well, now it doesn't make sense because that's not actually what Paul is saying. And a really, really great channel, if you guys want to check it out, is Ferris on How to Be Christian. Go check out his channel. He shows you how Protestants do this all the time. They literally will just take the Bible and then they'll insert their own personal opinions, and then they tell you that this is factually what the Bible says. There's people that do it all the time, and it's so sad. It's so sad. And their only like response is like, I'm not going to answer you because you're snarky, or I don't have to talk to you, or I don't have to defend that. That's concerning. Like if somebody's saying, hey, I stand on the truth and this is the truth, and then like somebody like rattles that cage a little bit and says, is it the truth? And then you say, well, I don't have to answer you because you're rude. What? What? I think you should answer people who are challenging what you're saying. and you should be able to defend it. Now, there are people out there like James White who will defend it until they're blue in the face, even when it doesn't make sense. But that doesn't mean, at least I can give James White some kind of a credit because he will actually defend it in some terms. In other terms, he's the same way. Well, I don't want to deal with this gentleman because he's snarky or he's rude or whatever. Even when we watched him debate Joe Heschmeyer, it was like, oh, well, I mean, I would answer that, but we're out of time. Are we? You literally just cut your eyes and told him, like, yeah, we're out of time. Wink, wink. Come on. Defend the truth. If you think you're really standing on the truth, defend it. Let's throw the uncharitable, charitable in and out. Let's get rid of that. Because I'm here to tell you the truth. I'm here to tell you that if you're a Protestant, you might be in the wrong church. In fact, I would say, this is my own personal opinion, but I would say that if you're a Protestant, you're in the wrong church. And here's why. Division is rampant through Protestantism. And Jesus prayed for unity. That should be a red flag. People all around you, pastors, Baptists, Presbyterian, Methodists, whatever they are, they will say what they think the Bible says, and it might not line up with each other, but then their answer is, as long as we love Jesus. I don't know about you, but if I truly, truly love Jesus, I'm going to do everything in my power to seek exactly what he wanted me to know. And I trust in him to take me to that truth. And he will lead you. I promise you, he will lead you to the Catholic Church. How do I know that? Because it is the truth. History proves this. The earliest church fathers proved this. And if you want to keep standing on the lies and deceptions of Protestantism, then you go for it. You can call me uncharitable if you want. But telling the truth is not uncharitable. It's the most charitable thing I could do. Holding the truth to myself is like the servant that took the coin and did nothing with it. I want you to know because I was you. And I don't want you to continue being deceived or confused or having to stand on the truth of your own interpretations or your friends' interpretations or your pastor's interpretations or this guy in the comments interpretation. Seek it with all your heart. God promises if you seek him with all your heart, you will find him. And you're going to be coming to the Eucharist. I promise you that. We'll see you guys in the next video.